Vedantism Part 3. Next to the Vedanta comes the Smritis. These also are books written by sages, but the authority of the Smritis is subordinate to that of the Vedanta because they stand in the same relation with us as the scriptures of the other religions stand with regard to them. We admit that the Smritis have been written by particular sages. In that sense, they are the same as the scriptures of other religions. But these Smritis are not final authority. If there is anything in a Smriti which contradicts the Vedanta, the Smriti is to be rejected. Its authority is gone. These Smritis we see again have varied from time to time. We see that such and such Smriti should have authority in the Satya Yuga, such and such in the Treta Yuga, such and such in the Dwapara Yuga, and some in the Kali Yuga, and so on. And essential conditions changed, as various circumstances come to have their influence on the race, manners, and customs had to be changed. And these smritis, as mainly regulating the manners and customs of the nation, had also to be changed from time to time. This is a point I especially ask you to remember. The principles of religion that are in the Vedanta are unchangeable. Why? Because they are all built upon the eternal principles and are in man and nature. They can never change. Ideas about the soul going to heaven and so on can never change. They were the same thousands of years ago. They are the same today. They will be the same millions of years hence. But those religious practices which are based entirely upon our social position and correlation must change with the changes in society. Such an order, therefore, would be good and true at a certain period and not at another. We find accordingly that a certain food is allowed at one time and not another because the food was suitable for that time. But climate and other things changed. Various other circumstances required to be met, so the Smriti changed the food and other things. Thus, it naturally follows that if in modern times our society requires changes to be made, they must be met, and sages will come and show us the way how to meet them. But not one jot of the principles of our religion will be changed. They will remain intact. Then there are the Puranas, which means the Puranas are of 5 characteristics that which treats of history, of cosmology, with various symbolical illustration of philosophical principles, and so forth. These were written to popularize the religion of the Vedas. The language in which the Vedas are written is very ancient, and even among scholars, very few can trace the date of these books. The Puranas were written in the language of the people of that time, what we call modern Sanskrit. They were then meant not for scholars, but for the ordinary people, and ordinary people cannot understand philosophy. Such things were given onto them in concrete form by means of the lives of saints and kings and great men and historical events that happened to the race, etc. The sages made use of these things to illustrate the eternal principles of religion. There are still other books, the Tantras. These are very much like Puranas in some respects. And in some of them, there is an attempt to revive the old sacrificial ideas of the Karmakanda. All these books constitute the scriptures of the Hindus. When there is such a mass of sacred books in a nation and a race which has devoted the greatest part of its energies to the thought of philosophy and spirituality, nobody knows for how many thousands of years, it is quite natural that there should be so many sections. Indeed, it is a wonder that there are not thousands more. These sections differ very much from each other in certain points. We shall not have time to understand the differences between these sections and all the spiritual details about them. Therefore, I shall take up the common grounds, the essential principles of all these sections, which every Hindu must believe. The first is the question of creation, that this nature, Prakriti, Maya, is infinite without beginning. It is not that this world was created the other day, not that a God came and created the world, and since that time has been sleeping, for that cannot be. The creative energy is still going on. God is eternally creating, is never at rest. Remember the passage in the Gita where Krishna says, if I remain at rest for one moment, this universe will be destroyed. If that creative energy, which is working all around us day and night, stops for a second, the whole thing falls to the ground. There never was a time when that energy did not work throughout the universe. But there is a law of cycles, pralay. Our Sanskrit word for creation, properly translated, should be projection and not creation. For the word creation in the English language has unhappily got that fearful, that most crude idea of something coming out of nothing. Creation out of non-entity, non-existence becoming existence, which of course I would not insult you by asking you to believe. Our word therefore is projection. The whole of this universe exists, it becomes finer, subsides, and then after a period of rest, as it were, the whole thing is again projected forward, and the same combination, the same evolution, the same manifestations appear and remain playing, as it were, for a certain time, only again to break into pieces, to become finer and finer until the whole thing subsides and again comes out. Thus, it goes on backwards and forwards with a wave-like motion throughout eternity. Time, space, and causation are within this nature. To say, therefore, that it had a beginning is utter nonsense. No question can occur as to its beginning or its end. Therefore, wherever in our scriptures the words beginning and end are used, you must remember that it means the beginning and the end of one particular cycle, no more than that.